Hello, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Up in the Air. I'm Vivian Rennie.
And I'm Noah Berggren. So Vivian, this is now our 6th episode of the fall season. I cannot believe how fast time is flying. The leaves are beginning to change outside in State College. It's really beginning to look a lot like fall outside.
It's definitely very beautiful outside, not really feeling like fall yet, but it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, Chris Landolfi will be here a little later in the show to see if temperatures will feel like fall in the coming period. And also, we've got stories on the 2017 hurricane season and also chimpanzees. Before all of that, here's Update in the Air.
Norway is known for its beautiful fjords, mountains, and vibrant cultural life. But by the end of this year, you can add environmental change driver to that list. The Norwegian parliament voted last Friday to shift its holdings out of billions of dollars of stock in companies whose businesses rely at least 30% on coal. The changes are going to take effect next year and may lay the groundwork for many nations to transform cultural and political views across Europe. Norway is considered to have the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world, and it's the largest institution yet to join a growing international movement to abandon at least some fossil fuel stocks. This movement is certain to add momentum to a global push to divest in stocks tied to fossil fuels. According to Bob Massey, founder of the Investor Network on Climate Risk, a move like this sets a precedent for divestment and for many nations to question what they stand for. Although many Norwegian institutions have pushed back against the divestment movement, these first steps are sure to combat continued dependence on fossil fuels.
The 2017 hurricane season has highlighted the critical need to communicate a storm's impact path and intensity accurately, but new research shows significant misunderstandings of the two most commonly used storm forecast visualization methods. A new study from the University of Utah looked at summary displays and ensemble displays for communicating information about a hurricane. Summary displays show the possible paths of a hurricane as a cone with hard boundaries, referred to as the cone of uncertainty. Ensemble displays show lines indicating many possible paths that a hurricane could take. There are advantages and disadvantages to each technique according to the study co-authors. Although the two types of displays used the same hurricane data, participants interpreted size and intensity differently. The researchers found summary displays are more likely to be misinterpreted than ensemble displays. The cone of uncertainty in a summary display, for example, displays a hurricane's possible path with no information about its size. But study participants were likely to interpret the display as showing a storm growing in size and intensity. Ensemble displays are promising for high-level decisions such as regions to evacuate, but the researchers found that novice viewers' judgments are based when their point of interest overlaps with a line in the ensemble. In the ensemble display experiment, participants were more likely to predict greater damage to an oil rig located on an ensemble line compared to one not falling on the line. These findings also have implications for media reports, since based on these types of images used, more context may be needed to help the public understand what they are seeing and what it means.
Chimpanzees worldwide once numbered about 1 million in the early 1900s. But with widespread habitat loss and poaching, numbers have been on the decline ever since. Today, there are estimated to be between 150,000 to 300,000 chimps left worldwide. Regulations taking effect later this year will designate all chimpanzees as one under the Endangered Species Act. Previously, there was a legal distinction between chimps held in captivity versus those in the wild. With these new regulations, the chimpanzees held captive in the United States will be granted the same protections as wild chimps. Without these regulations, individuals who privately own chimps do not need to have a permit. This includes individuals in research and the entertainment industry. Previous to these new regulations, policies sent out mixed signals to the public, creating the impression that chimpanzees were not in dire need of help, stated Dan Ash, director of the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. These changes will create barriers to biomedical research and entertainment, now requiring a permit for any activity that may harm or harass chimpanzees. Not only will these new regulations help out our closest relatives, but will pave the way for many other endangered species to be granted the same protections as their wild counterparts.
There is considerable opportunity for generating wind power in the open ocean, particularly the North Atlantic, according to new research from Carnegie Mellon. This is because wind speeds are higher on average over ocean than they are over land. Wind turbines in the open ocean could, in theory, intercept more than 5 times as much energy as wind turbines over land. This presents an enticing opportunity for generating renewable energy through wind turbines, but it was unknown whether the faster ocean winds could actually be converted into increasing amounts of electricity. The biggest question that researchers had was that if the atmosphere over the ocean could move more energy downward than the atmosphere over the land is able to. In the North Atlantic, in particular, the drag introduced by wind turbines would not slow down winds as much as they would over land, these researchers found. This is largely due to the fact that the large amounts of heat pour out over the North Atlantic Ocean and into the overlying atmosphere, particularly during the winter months. However, this tremendous wind power is very seasonal. Wind power production in the deep waters of the open ocean is in its infancy of commercialization. Soon there could be a windy city in the middle of the ocean.
It is well known that climate change warms oceans and changes their chemistry. Warming waters experience a loss of dissolved oxygen and other life-supporting nutrients. As tropical waters experience these changes, fish move further and further towards the poles. These equatorial waters become too low in oxygen to support the energy needs of many ecosystems. As published in a new study in the Journal of Science, fish are beginning to flee their natural habitats as waters become more inhospitable. Coral reef bleaching further forces native fish populations out of their natural waters. A second study published last week shows that the possibility of corals will also be displaced as ocean chemistry changes. Corals grow much slower than fish populations, so water changing may cause many systems to be eradicated, lowering the total diversity of health in the world's oceans. Migrating fish populations not only disrupt the balance in their former habitat, but also change the environment that they make it to. Non-native species can be catastrophic for ecosystems that are not accustomed to the newcomers, shifting the overall balance of our world's oceans.
A University of Vermont-led study of 300,000 children in 35 nations says that kids whose watersheds have greater tree cover are less likely to experience diarrheal disease, the second leading cause of death for children under the age of 5. According to the World Health Organization, or WHO, 1 in 4 deaths of children under the age of 5 are attributable to unhealthy environments. 361,000 children die of diarrheal disease every year because of poor access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene. Looking at all of these diverse households in all of these different countries, the study found that the healthier your watershed upstream, the less likely your kids are to get this potentially fatal disease, said Taylor Ricketts of University of Vermont's Institute for Environment. Surprisingly, the researchers found that a 30% increase in upstream tree cover in rural watersheds would have a comparable effect to improved water sanitation, such as the addition of indoor plumbing or toilets. But these findings clearly show that the forests and other natural systems can complement traditional water sanitation systems and help compensate for a lack of infrastructure. The researchers hope that these findings help governments and development agencies to improve the health and environment of children around the world. They add that more research is needed to fully understand exactly how watershed forests impact the risk of diseases like diarrhea, which may cause, including waterborne pathogens.
Welcome back to the show.
We now have a special feature from Kellyanne Class and J.P. Tracy on how the federal government is helping to build a weather-ready nation.
National Weather Service, or NWS, takes care of many jobs, from issuing watches and warnings, producing weather forecasts, and even creating a weather-ready nation. What is a weather-ready nation, you may ask? According to the National Weather Service, building a weather-ready nation is about building community resilience in the face of increasing vulnerability to extreme weather, and climate. Building a weather-ready nation has been in the works for a little over 5 years now and has 4,400 plus ambassadors.
We spoke with Dr. Ussolini, the director of the National Weather Service, to discuss why they created a weather-ready nation. This all started after the April 27th and 28th, 2011 tornado outbreak that spawned 200 tornadoes across 16 states, 62 of those being in Alabama alone. This outbreak resulted in 235 fatalities in Alabama and over 300 fatalities overall. It was the deadliest outbreak since 1932, and the National Weather Service realized that they needed to change some things.
Members of the NWS met at a workshop in Norman, Oklahoma to discuss what they needed to change and what they could work on better. They focused on the delivery of warnings, including assessing and updating them. They integrated physical and social sciences to create impact-based warnings to deliver to the public.
The National Weather Service connects their forecasts and warnings that they generate with the impacts. This type of impact integration is known as Impact-Based Decision Support Services, also known as IDSS. IDSS is the National Weather Service's provision of relevant information and interpretive services to enable core partners' decisions when weather, water, or climate has a direct impact on the protection of livelihoods and lives. These core partners include areas of the government, emergency management, and water managers. IDSS is integrated in building a weather-ready nation and can be successful by providing great forecasts, explain the uncertainty, and build trust within the public.
Building a weather-ready nation has already proven to be successful. For example, during the blizzard of January 2016, the National Weather Service kept in contact with the Weather Ready Nation ambassadors to inform them of the risks and impacts of the storm to ensure that lives would be saved. This was proven to be successful because during the height of the storm, there were no cars on the Long Island Expressway and no fatalities during the storm.
Building a weather-ready nation is proving to be successful and will continue to be successful as time goes on. In the next 5 years, the National Weather Service hopes to have all hands on deck and continue to improve warnings. For Up in the Air, I'm Kellyanne Class.
And I'm JP Tracy.
Thanks for sticking with us. So, Vivian, we're now in the middle of October. Fall festivities are beginning to get into full bloom. The leaves are changing. I actually made pumpkin spice cookies for the first time this weekend for my housemates.
Oh, those sound so good. I'm actually not doing any baking for fall festivities, but this weekend I'm going on a hayride and picking some pumpkins later in the afternoon. So that sounds like it's going to be a great fall day.
Hopefully there's going to be some good weather for spending some time outside. Chris Landolfi's here with the Climate Outlook. Chris, do you have any fall festivities planned for this weekend?
Well, I do. I am picking up a pumpkin this Saturday, and I know Vivian was saying it's going to be a great fall day. It may be a great day, but it sure isn't going to feel like a fall day, but I'll get to that in a minute. Your climate info for October 12th, average high 62 degrees. That hasn't been what we've been dealing with recently here in October, though. Average low 43 for a mean temperature of 53. For the month of October as a whole, we're right around 7 degrees above average. So really, it has been a warm start to the fall season. Now, your fall foliage monitor, if we look into the Catskills, parts of upstate New York are already hitting their peak, and some parts are even going past their peak for foliage. However, here in central Pennsylvania, we're seeing moderate colors throughout much of the state. Now, your temperature outlook for October 17th to the 23rd, only one section of the country is going to be experiencing below normal temperatures, mainly in the Pacific Northwest. That will be extending down into Nevada and Northern California. However, that will be helpful for some firefighters out there that are battling that Napa Valley fire in Northern Cali. Your temperature outlook for the rest of the country, however, above normal, stretching from Arizona all the way to Maine. That above normal is going to be centered right around the Great Lakes. Really, for most of the country, it will be a warm period. Now, your precipitation outlook, above normal precipitation, again, in the Pacific Northwest, extending into Northern California. For much of the center of the country, below normal precipitation. And then here in the Northeast, we should be experiencing, again, some below normal precipitation with areas of above normal in the Southeast and the Great Lakes. Now, your drought monitor, it's been a while since we've seen drought in Southern California. They did have a very wet winter last winter, and that really worked to quench that drought that they had been experiencing the past couple of years before that. But the main drought will be centered in northern Montana, as it has been for the past few weeks, actually. And here in Pennsylvania, we haven't seen a lot of precipitation for this month, although we are starting to catch up. We did see the remnants of Hurricane Nate that did give us some precipitation, but many areas, especially in the northern parts of the state are still experiencing some dry weather. Extending into New England, that dry weather, and even seeing some drought into Maine. Now, your outlook for this weekend, it's going to be a beauty. Saturday, high of 72 degrees under sunny skies. Sunday, for most of the day, should still be beautiful, mostly sunny. However, by the late afternoon to early evening, we will see some showers come through as a cold front comes in, but the high will still be 76 degrees. So really, I don't know if I can call this one a fall weekend. What are you guys thinking?
Well, with the average high being in the 60s, it looks like those above average temperatures looks great to get outside and enjoy, no?
Hey, no complaints from me. I'm excited to pick my pumpkin on Saturday.
Sounds good to me. With Penn State football being on the road also, have some extra time to spend outside in the state college. So that's all we have for this week on our episode of Up in the Air. I'm Noah Berggren.
And I'm Vivian Rennie. Tune in next week, Up in the Air.